Single dad Janitor discovered the $100 million solution in seconds. CEO's next move was incredible. Jake knelt on the cold tile floor, the hum of the fluorescent lights creating a dull rhythm in the abandoned lobby of Futuratech. He paused, wiping the sweat from his brow with the sleeve of his uniform. Tomorrow marked another day under the weight of contracts to sweep and stalls to scrub. Yet tonight, the air seemed charged with a potent energy as he moved, dreaming of a life beyond mops and brooms, a better life for his daughter, Lily. He thought of her bright smile and her imaginative visualizations of a future he so desperately yearned to provide. But in this pocket of corporate decay, Jake felt like an intruder, a specter among dollar signs and ambitions he could never hope to reach. That feeling intensified when he stumbled upon a forgotten folder, casting aside a wave of hesitation as he opened it. The words danced on the page, ideas that could resurrect Futuratech, a hidden patent coated in dust but gleaming with potential. His heart quickened. Could this be the breakthrough he needed? Yet as curiosity urged him to explore, doubt wrapped around him like a vice. What could a janitor like him, who spent more time cleaning up after others than creating, possibly contribute to this new vision? Before he could ponder further, the clattering of heels echoed against the hard floors, and as the executives traipsed past, he ceased all thought. In their laughter and banter, there was a chorus of privilege that made him want to shrink away, a reminder of the socio-economic chasm separating him from the glint of their casual brilliance. The folder felt hot in his hands, heavy with the weight of unearned dreams. Days passed. The patent weighed on his mind like a stone. He would see Lily's innocent eyes when he got home, watching cartoons or sprawled across the carpet with books packed with stories of adventure. That fuel ignited a simmering determination in him, but it was cradled in an inferiority complex that clawed at him, whispering he didn't belong in their world. The fear of being a mockery to them, of being dismissed solely for his title, a janitor, tightened his throat. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Just when self-doubt reached its peak, the CEO learned of Jake's find, and against all odds, invited him into the realm of suits and polished shoes, considering him for a pivotal meeting. The opportunity felt surreal, yet panic bubbled alongside exhilaration, filling him with conflicting sensations, hope mixed with paralyzing anxiety. Was he strong enough to fight for his place at that table? The thought of facing them, it terrified him. The day of the pitch loomed like a storm cloud. As he prepared, working late into the night with Sam, the retired engineer, Jake grappled with his identity. Every judgment attached to the rank of janitor suffocated him in layers of self-condemnation. He rehearsed his speech in the mirror, trying to convince himself that he could be more than what others saw. In that mirror, desperation flickered in his eyes. The thought of Lily, the promise of a different future, surged within him, lighting an internal fire that pushed back against lingering self-doubt. He stood before the gathering of executives, the boardroom filled with disbelieving stares, each one a brick wall he had to climb. Anxiety morphed into terror as he caught sight of Lily, her bright eyes a beacon through the glass wall, a reminder of his worth. But as he spoke, articulating his vision, the room cracked open with sneers and whispers. Their skepticism pierced him, and with each word, his confidence ebbed. With a voice shaking, he felt the weight of expectation crash around him, just as another voice interrupted, dripping with doubt. Jake's heart raced, a tempest swirling inside. Could he truly breach this fortress of elitism and claim his place among them, or would he succumb to the shadows, lost to the echoes of their disbelief? The murmurs of disbelief twisted around him like shackles as Jake stood, rooted to the spot. He could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears, drowning out the laughter that mocked his ambition. Was this how it felt to fight against a wall of skepticism, with nothing but conviction as his weapon? He shifted his gaze from the executives to the folder in his hand, the fabric of his dreams crumbling under their scrutiny.
as he spoke, a fleeting flicker of belief igniting, he conjured the image of Lily, her innocence and vibrancy illuminating his darkest moments. He pressed on with his presentation, his voice growing steadier, the words flowing as he detailed the potential of the patent. This solution can not only restore Futuratech's former glory, but will also pave the way for sustainable innovation. With every syllable stated, he fought against the tide of doubt, recounting the research and the untapped industries that could thrive with proper implementation. He watched as eyes gradually shifted from scornful dismissal to cautious interest. Could it be that they were starting to take notice? Yet the lingering tones of disbelief hung thick in the air. Then one executive, a sharp-eyed woman with a reputation for her ruthless assessments, stood up. "You say this can change everything, but you're a janitor. What do you know about running a tech empire? Why should we trust a cleaning man's vision?"
The challenge crackled, electrifying the atmosphere, and Jake's breath hitched. In that moment, an old balance shifted within him. The lodged insecurity in his throat began to loosen. He wouldn't let a title define him. The reality of his work had led him to this juncture. Instead of retorting with the defensive indignation that surged within, he chose a different path, the path that honored who he was and why he stood there. "My role may be humble, but I see things from a unique perspective. I understand the struggles behind the scenes. Solutions aren't just about numbers or profits. They're about people and innovation forged from ground zero." His words resonated with a sincerity that surprised even him, and new life surged through his veins. However, the questions came flooding back. What if they didn't believe him? What if he was just a passing glance in their world of polished intellects? But Jake shook off the doubt, honing in on the belief that flickered inside, the notion that his struggles were not his weakness, but rather his strength, finely honed through years of perseverance and sacrifice. The CEO leaned forward, intrigued. "What happened to the last time Futuratech overlooked someone like you?" An eerie silence draped over the room, the truth ringing like a bell. Hidden in the shadows were dozens of discarded ideas that had bitten the dust while chasing the glitz of traditional success. The whisper of failure underlined Jake's conviction, and he answered, "We cannot afford to overlook the overlooked." This unexpected moment of clarity acted as a catalyst, awakening flickers of hope behind skeptical eyes. Perhaps not all was lost yet. The veil of superiority began to fade, replaced by curiosity that sparked questions rather than dismissal. As discussions ensued about the implications of his findings, a sense of empowerment began to stir deep within him. Jake felt invigorated by the acknowledgement of his ideas, a step that could redefine his place, not just in that room, but throughout the corporate landscape as a whole. But as conversation ebbed, the sharp-eyed executive returned her focus to him. "This movement doesn't just shift dynamics, it can uproot the entire industry. Are you prepared for the scrutiny?" Jake's stomach nodded. Scrutiny meant exposure, risk. It meant confronting not just the executives, but the very foundations he feared they represented. Was he truly ready for this path, fraught with judgments and potential setbacks? With a determined nod, Jake stood taller. "I'll face whatever comes my way." Realizing that confrontation wasn't just about defending his pitch, but also daring to claim a decisive role in the future of Futuratech, he gathered his thoughts. The climb had only just begun, but he could feel the ascent unfolding, a chance to prove that an ordinary janitor could inspire extraordinary change. As conversations turned into commitments, a thrill shot through him.
Yet he knew one foundational truth. This was merely the beginning of his journey. The ultimate test loomed ahead, and Jake would need every ounce of grit he possessed to navigate the obstacles that awaited him. Amid the swirling tides of ambition and apprehension, the mantra rang clear. He would not back down. But would that resolve be enough to shield him as they scrutinized every move he made? The seeds of uncertainty had been planted, and the moment of reckoning was drawing closer. The days following the presentation felt surreal. Jake found himself caught in an exhilarating whirlwind of activity, a stark contrast to the solitude of his previous life. As the executives delved deeper into his proposal, what had once been a lonely struggle morphed into collaborative discussions. He moved through hallways that once felt imposing, filled now with an electric sense of purpose, relishing the feeling of belonging among the towering minds of Futuratech. However, the enthusiasm was paired with an undercurrent of anxiety. Doubts flickered in his mind like shadows. Would the fervor of initial interest translate into concrete support? Vocal promises felt flimsy against the weight of reality. Each day brought new scrutiny, and he was uncomfortably aware of being the focal point of speculation, even skepticism. But as the meetings unfolded, Jake began to notice a critical shift within himself. Each encounter, each strategic discussion,
offered him insights into industry processes and the underlying currents of innovation that propelled successful projects. He absorbed the language of tech. Terms like agile development and disruptive technologies began to resonate. Slowly, he was developing a lexicon of his own. The janitorial staff were his roots, but now he was sprouting into something more. During one pivotal meeting, as he stood at the whiteboard articulating his concepts, he caught the sharp-eyed executive's gaze. She had been a pillar of skepticism during his earlier plea, but now seemed genuinely engaged. He sensed an opportunity, a glimpse of mutual respect emerging. "Jake," she asserted, pausing thoughtfully, "how do we ensure the implementation aligns with company culture? Transformation isn't just about innovation. We're talking about changing mindsets." A knot formed in Jake's stomach. Her question was pivotal. He vividly remembered the stories of his fellow workers, those dreamers and artisans who had often been overlooked for their ideas simply because they didn't wear suits. "That's exactly it," he replied, adrenaline coursing through him. "For change to take root, it must resonate with those in the trenches. We need to create a bridge between the innovators and the everyday workers. Not everyone is steeped in tech jargon, but everyone has valuable insights." As the room erupted in conversation, Jake felt invigorated, his confidence surging. This was his strength, the pulse of the ground realities.
He had spent years observing and reflecting on what made workplaces thrive or flounder. After meetings, he spent late nights at home, mapping out not only strategies for the patent, but his personal trajectory within the company. The thrill of mapping his future was unparalleled. He began to establish connections, mentoring relationships with people he once considered untouchable idols. They probed deeper into his thoughts, challenging him to think critically and strategically. However, with every interaction, the dread of expectation loomed larger. Then came the moment that unraveled it all. During a midweek briefing, an up-and-coming manager posited a question about potential vulnerabilities in the proposal. Jake's throat went dry, the scrutinizing gaze of his peers igniting the familiar embers of self-doubt. This was a direct confrontation. Failure now had a tangible image. In that heartbeat of hesitation, his mind raced. Were they testing his resolve? He could either shrink back or embrace the moment. With a determined switch flicking in his core, Jake acknowledged the risks aloud. Every innovation is fraught with obstacles, but it's how we learn and adapt that will define our success. The room held its breath, and he could feel the electric tension taper. He found the courage to turn the narrative back to them, igniting collaborative ideas rather than defensive explanations. The discussions morphed from critique to creativity, and that shift felt monumental. This wasn't merely about salvaging his proposal. This was about stepping up, redefining what they had deemed impossible. But as plans began to solidify, Jake's personal life remained a turbulent undercurrent. Balancing the rising expectations at work with the demands of caring for Lily became a daunting duality. One evening, while reviewing notes at his kitchen table, Jake stared blankly at his laptop. He felt the familiar tug of fatigue merging with exhilaration. He was on the cusp of breakthrough in one realm, while anxiety clung tightly in the other. He knew that if he faltered at home, no amount of professional success could fill that void. Clarity settled in. He had to prioritize what mattered most. His daughter's well-being and the opportunities that lay ahead needed traction, but not at the expense of their bond. Yet just as he formulated this inner resolve, an unexpected voice pierced his thoughts. A sharp notification popped up on his screen, an invitation from the CEO himself to present his findings to the board next month. The stakes had just escalated exponentially. Would he rise to the occasion, or would the weight of the world crush him under its expectations? The journey ahead was not solely professional anymore. It had become a test of his identity, his limits, and his deepest commitments. The invitation from the CEO lingered in Jake's mind like a fevered dream.
The weight of it settled heavily, a boulder pressing down. But underneath that pressure, a flicker of determination ignited. This was a critical moment, now felt distant and imposing. Yet the duality of his life persisted, a constant push and pull. Jake's late nights were filled with PowerPoint slides and data analyses, but every text from Lily's school, every little voice asking him to be present, pulled him back to his most fundamental role, being a father. The realization struck him. To truly embody the innovative spirit he championed at work, He had to strike a balance that honored both his professional aspirations and his commitment to Lily. With determination, he crafted a plan not just for his presentation, but for how to integrate more moments with his daughter. A short walk after school, every Tuesday and Thursday, my no-work zone, he murmured to himself, jotting it down in a notebook. He envisioned moments of laughter, of discovery, weaving them into the fabric of what had been a monotonous routine. The better he managed himself, the more clarity he would bring to his work. As the days rolled by, Jake prepared meticulously for his board presentation, diving deeper into his proposal. He surrounded himself with supportive colleagues, asking them for insights and suggestions. Each dialogue reinforced his confidence, and he began to view his upcoming presentation not just as a test, but as an opportunity to elucidate the vision that had taken on a life of its own. The night before the presentation, he sat in front of his laptop. Anxiety gnawed at him, but as he glanced around his living space, cluttered with Lily's drawings and the remnants of their evenings together, a calming sense of purpose washed over him. It wasn't just about securing funding or a spot at the company's helm anymore. It was about ensuring a future where he and his daughter could thrive alongside one another. Just before bed, he closed his eyes, envisioning success. He pictured the boardroom, the faces of executives looking expectantly, and himself articulating ideas with clarity and conviction. As he drifted into sleep, he held on to the thought that failure was merely a stepping stone. The day of the presentation dawned bright and promising. Jake dressed carefully, the feel of his shirt against his skin reminding him of the changing tides in his life. He arrived at the office early, mentally rehearsing his points, and tapping into the reservoir of knowledge he had absorbed during the last few weeks. As the presentation started, he stood at the front, feeling the anticipation crackle in the air. But this time he was not just the janitor presenting an idea. He was a man with a clear vision, carrying the weight of his experiences to forge new paths in this realm.
He navigated through his slides, weaving insights from colleagues and connecting them to the broader goals of Futuratech. A couple of executives leaned forward, their expressions shifting from skepticism to curiosity. It was in the midst of a critical point, as he laid down a particularly bold strategy, that he noticed the same executive who had once challenged him, her eyes glinting with interest. Encouraged by her engagement, he allowed himself to lean into his authenticity, sharing not only facts, but the emotional landscape that undergirded his proposal. And this, to me, is more than just a project. It's a commitment to the teams that solidify our foundation and the community we can build together, he stated, his voice resonating with passion. As the presentation concluded and applause filled the room, an electrifying surge of hope infused Jake's spirit. Perhaps he really could be a catalyst for change. But as he breathed a sigh of relief, the CEO's gaze locked onto his, and an unexpected feeling washed over him. Something beyond affirmation. It was the gravity of a future that no longer felt clear. The CEO leaned in, ready to make a critical announcement. And now that you've captured our attention, Jake, I believe it's time we take this collaboration further. What exactly did that mean? The ambiguity seeped into the air, fueling another round of anticipation and igniting questions about what awaited him next. What transformative moves were about to be introduced, and how would they impact his newfound role as innovator and father? Jake's heart raced as the CEO's words hung in the air, a weighted invitation that promised to reshape his reality. Uncertainty flickered in his mind. Had he done enough to earn this opportunity? He fought to maintain his composure, masking his apprehension with a facade of confidence. The boardroom, once a crucible of anxiety, now felt electric with potential. The CEO continued, her authoritative tone cutting through the tension. We believe in exploring innovative leadership, and I'm inviting you to be part of a special task force. Your recent presentation has shown us your vision, but we need someone who can champion that vision, a leader who can galvanize teams during this pivotal growth phase. The words sank into Jake's consciousness, each syllable carving out opportunity amidst doubt. What he had always aspired to became tangible, yet it came with the weight of new responsibility. Leadership was more than a title. It demanded a depth of insight, not just strategy, but empathy. Could he embody that? Could he lead while maintaining his role as a father? He felt the eyes of the board divided amongst them, some searching for his reaction, others seeking to unveil his vulnerabilities. In truth, Jake was terrified.
This was a challenge that reached far beyond his comfort zone, yet within that fear flickered a fire of ambition. He nodded, swallowing hard. I appreciate the opportunity.
I believe I can bring a different perspective that might resonate distinctly within the team. The CEO's eyes softened slightly with approval. You have until the end of the week to gather your ideas. We'll reconvene to discuss your vision for this task force. Consider how you will inspire fresh approaches among your peers, while also contributing your own expertise. As the meeting dispersed, Jake remained seated, battling a rush of conflicting emotions. Excitement surged through him at the thought of having the chance to pioneer innovative projects, but was swiftly countered with the weight of new expectations. Would he be able to inspire others when he often struggled to inspire himself? Taking a deep breath, Jake gathered his things and stepped out of the boardroom. The sun outside blazed above him, but the warmth felt like a gentle reminder that the elements of life, work and family, were intertwined as one potential tapestry for the future, yet the stakes had just risen. In the days that followed, Jake recommitted to his preparation. He carved out time in the early mornings before work, sketching out ideas and brainstorming with trusted colleagues. He began to cultivate his leadership philosophy, searching for ways to align the operational goals of Futuratech with broader implications for personal significance. Simultaneously, he embraced the resolve to prioritize time with Lily. Every Tuesday and Thursday, their no-work zone still stood intact amidst the whirl of preparation. Their perspectives wove into the other. His new challenges at work fueled his creativity, while the unfiltered laughter shared with her ignited a resilience within. One evening, after strategizing on a particularly complex proposal, he closed his laptop and sat across from Lily. She was coloring a picture of dinosaurs, her concentration unwavering. A thought flickered in his mind, an emerging idea, a playful vision of innovation that could tie in technology with storytelling for children. Could he facilitate a series of educational programs, leveraging Futuratech's resources, merging his father's role with his corporate ambitions? But it was precisely in this moment that doubt clouded him, whispering insidiously. Was it selfish to pursue this ambition, to risk being stretched too thin? The demands of the task force, the pressures of leadership, conflicting with his drive to be the supportive father Lily deserved. Where would he draw the line? A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. His boss, an approachable but firm mentor, wanted a crucial check-in. Jake's mind raced, weighing the potential of proactively working through the fears that now burdened him. The doubts that had followed him for years came crashing back. He had faced larger challenges that felt insurmountable. Each leap into the unknown whispered two things: ambition and vulnerability. Jake, his boss began, I know you're faced with a chance that's both exciting and daunting. I want to help you navigate what comes next. In that moment, Jake knew he had to confront the implications of his decisions openly. As he met his boss's steady gaze, resolve swept through him. He needed to be transparent, to find clarity in the precarious balance of aspiration and commitment, not just for himself, but for the legacy he was forging with Lily. And in the midst of this turmoil came the realization that he had the power to redefine success, not through sacrifices, but through harmonizing dual dimensions of his life. Now more than ever, he understood that this journey would hinge upon the relationships he nurtured and the networks he built, not just within Futuratech, but also with the one person who truly mattered. It all could be tied together if he could only trust the process. But moments of doubt still loomed. Fears of failing his daughter while stumbling through uncharted corporate territory weighed heavily on him as he prepared to dive deeper into this partnership. The real test was yet to come. How would he navigate these new expectations without losing sight of the core ties that grounded him? As he agreed to the meeting with his boss, Jake felt the tension heighten once again. What was he really willing to sacrifice for this new chapter? And what would it mean for the rhythm of his life that was just beginning to find harmony? Jake entered the abyss of his own thoughts as he prepared for the upcoming meeting. Conversations whirled about in his mind, each one an echo of self-doubt, layered with an acute awareness of the stakes now placed before him. The prospect of leading a task force was terrifying yet exhilarating, a dual-edged sword where one misstep could feel catastrophic, not only for his career, but for the fragile balance of his home life. He reviewed the notes he had jotted down in a frenzied state over the last few days, bold ideas sketched beside tentative questions. Could technology revolutionize educational storytelling? Would his vision resonate and evoke change beyond the confines of his role? The clock ticked steadily, a reminder that he was running out of time. Jake knew that clarity and articulation would be paramount. He stood in front of the mirror for a moment, resolving to shed inner turmoil. Who was he, if not a dedicated father and driven professional? He took a deep breath, committing to authentic expression in both realms.
With each passing day, the realization gnawed at him. Success could not be a solitary pursuit. He arrived at the office early, needing to cultivate an atmosphere of preparation before his meeting with his boss. The emptiness within the office felt both daunting and liberating. It provided him a moment of respite, a space where he could connect with his thoughts without interruption. His boss arrived punctually, filling the room with an air of competence. As they exchanged pleasantries, Jake's mind whirled with anxiety.
Would he reveal enough of his newfound vision while still being vulnerable to the unpredictable responses? Would transparency translate into strength? "Thank you for taking the time to meet with me," Jake began, steadier than he felt. "Of course, Jake. You're stepping into some big shoes here. I value your initiative," his boss replied, settling into his chair. "Let's hear your thoughts." Jake's heart raced. He spoke about the initiative he envisioned, integrating technology into childhood education through interactive storytelling, a concept that mirrored the playful essence of Lily's coloring book, but elevated it to a wider scale. "I think if we can combine those elements, we could create a platform to not only engage children, but also reflect the core values of our company, innovation and accessibility," he explained, the words tumbling out in a rush. His boss leaned forward, a glimmer of intrigue sparking in his eyes. "Interesting. You're suggesting this even as you gear up to lead a task force on a larger project. What makes you confident that you can manage both?" The question hit hard. It wasn't just about balancing time, but also about his perceived capability. "I see them as interconnected. Being a father has taught me the importance of nurturing potential, and I believe that my experiences outside of work can translate into this role. I want to build a supportive culture where ideas flourish." The wheels of his boss's mind turned. "That's admirable, but let's be candid. This task force will push you into leadership roles you may not feel ready for. Are you prepared for the scrutiny that comes with that?" Jake could feel the weight of his boss's words. Was he truly ready? In that moment, all the fears lurking at the back of his mind crashed forward. What if he failed? "Quite frankly, I'm scared," Jake confessed, allowing vulnerability to surface. "But I've learned that performance does not equate to perfection. It's about growth, collaboration, and learning from those moments of uncertainty." A nod of approval from his boss ignited a flicker of courage within him. "That perspective is key," his boss said. "Your willingness to be imperfect and learn is what makes a good leader, but you must be proactive in asking for help, creating a network of support around you, especially as you grow in this role." A wave of realization washed over Jake. Support was not a sign of weakness, but a pillar of strength. It engaged him to embrace vulnerability as a tool for growth rather than a hindrance. Having clarity about his weaknesses could be a driver for innovation, not a roadblock. The meeting concluded, and Jake left with an invigorated spirit. He had articulated a vision, a commitment to intertwine and to lead that inspired him to continue developing. Yet beneath the surface shimmered unresolved fears, nagging doubts about whether he could successfully wield this power while maintaining his most profound relationships.
Now engaged with the implications of embracing leadership, Jake faced another realization. The journey would be fraught with tests, not only of his vision, but of his very character. How would he navigate the complexities of his task force's dynamics while remaining open to incorporating the powerful lessons of fatherhood? A new challenge awaited just around the corner, one that would force him to confront the relentless pressure of expectations that often loomed over him. But within the fray comes the question, will the strain lead him to breaking point or forge a resolve stronger than ever? The hum of the office buzzed around Jake like a distant storm. His mind raced, swapping the confidence he had mustered from his meeting with his boss for lingering uncertainty. The burden of responsibility began to feel like a weight he couldn't bear. Yet, somewhere deep within, he felt a flicker of determination mixed with anxiety, as if the very prospect of leading the task force had ignited an unfurling path before him. Day by day, the task force meetings loomed ever closer, and every moment became a negotiation between clarity and confusion. Jake found himself replaying conversations in his mind, parsing every nuance. What had he said too bluntly, and what had he over-explained? He faced mirrors not only in his office, but within himself, grappling with reflections of doubt and ambition. It was an internal battle that raged fiercely. The stakes were high, yet it was his future, his potential, to which he was clinging. Each meeting incrementally intensified his apprehension and revitalized his resolve. As he braced himself for the next brainstorming session, he sketched out his thoughts on paper, trying to untangle the web of his ideas. Each line penned was a small promise to himself.
He would not retreat into silence, nor hide behind inconspicuous ideas. That evening, as he picked Lily up from school, her laughter cut through the haze of his anxiety. "Daddy, can you help me with my project?" she asked, her eyes wide with expectation. She had chosen to make a visual presentation about her favorite book, and Jake felt an involuntary smile crack through his tension. "Of course," he replied, instantly connecting the dots between her story and the work waiting at the office. Sitting together at their kitchen table, with crayons scattered everywhere, Jake guided her, encouraging her to express her thoughts. In her small world, he found the very essence of his mission, the simplicity of storytelling, the joy of creation, and the sincerity of imagination. As he assisted her, something inside him began to shift. "Dad, what if I made the poster different colors?" she proposed. "It sounds like we should encourage everyone to use their imagination, right? Just like how our educational stories should inspire kids." The realization lit up in his mind like fireworks.
If children could craft stories from their experiences, he could create a platform that allowed them to feel part of a larger narrative, one that engaged them with the world around them even more deeply. The next day, energized by the evening session, Jake strolled into the task force meeting with a newfound perspective. As his colleagues gathered, he reframed the central question: how to create an interactive educational platform that functioned as a tool for storytelling. "What if we structured of that four-legged choose-your-own-adventure book?" Jake's voice resonated through the meeting room. Surprise mingled with skepticism in the air. Children could make choices that affect the outcome of the story, thus learning while playing. The thought had sprung from his interaction with Lily, and he hoped it would stick with the group. His peers began to interact, throwing out variants and critiques, but for the first time, Jake felt a part of the conversation instead of an outsider looking in. His vision was taking its first breaths, and with each beat, he grew more certain of his place. The vulnerability of sharing his ideas transformed into an exhilarating exchange that fueled their creativity. Yet, as the meeting wore on, he noticed one colleague, Bill, lingering in the background, his disapproval evident in the firm set of his jaw. Late in the meeting, Bill finally spoke up, his tone sharp and cutting. "That sounds ambitious, but can you really pull off something so engaging? Aren't we just a small team? Resources typically limit our ability to innovate." Jake's heart quickened. It felt less like Bill was questioning the project and more like he was undermining Jake's own potential. The air turned heavy with tension. Jake grappled with the urge to retreat, but remembered his commitment to vulnerability. "I see your concern, Bill, yet I believe that being small allows us to think bigger. We can innovate by harnessing our unique strengths and perspectives." The room shifted slightly, heads nodding in agreement. The moment transcended Jake's fears. Confronted with doubt, he found strength in unity, however small. As the meeting concluded, Jake felt something stir deep inside him, a conviction that beyond the updates and discussion lay a cornerstone of leadership, belief in oneself. He could steer this project forward. He just needed to remain grounded, to inspire others as Lily inspired him. Yet the weight of Bill's skepticism lingered like a dark cloud overhead, a reminder of the uphill battle that lay ahead. How would he counter such doubt moving forward? As he stood facing the horizon of opportunity and challenge, Jake wondered, could this be where he learned not only to lead a task force, but to redefine his own narrative? With this thought circling, he stepped forward, determined to embrace whatever came his way. The days blurred into a cycle of anticipation and self-assessment.
Each morning, Jake woke up with a pit of anxiety in his stomach, the echo of Bill's skepticism reverberating in his mind. What if this vision he was fostering was nothing more than a mirage? He found himself caught in an internal struggle where each question felt like a knife edge slicing through his resolve. Yet, along with the doubt, simmered a growing resolve to uphold the transformative idea he had birthed in the haze of his daughter's creativity. Each interaction with his task force became a canvas on which he painted his aspirations, cheek by jowl with Bill's counterpoints. Jake had learned to let criticisms wash over him like rain, realizing they could water the seeds of his ideas rather than drown them. In the following meetings, he honed his approach, collecting data and research that illuminated strengths in the proposed interactive storytelling platform. He set the bar higher for himself, shifting from merely participating in discussions to initiating them, turning his shyness into unyielding rigidity where innovation was concerned. He encouraged brainstorming sessions, embedding an air of encouragement among his peers, coaxing dissenters like Bill to engage rather than simply criticize. Each day was a step into the realm of clarity, rife with the challenges of leadership, but liberating enough to invigorate his spirit.
One particularly tense afternoon, they gathered to dissect the core structure of the platform. Jake outlined key functions, drawing diagrams illustrating how users might interact with stories. As his colleagues engaged, he realized something crucial was transpiring. It was no longer just his idea. It had morphed into a collective vision, bit by bit, piece by piece. "Let's consider the imagination behind feedback in stories," he proposed, his voice unwavering. "Children could rate their adventures, suggesting improvements for future narratives. We're not merely creating content, we foster a community of creators." Bill, armed with a similar skepticism, leaned forward. "And who will manage all these changes? We might end up overwhelmed and unprofessional." Instead of flinching, Jake felt emboldened. Now he studied Bill, discerning the nuance and challenge, recognizing that a strong leader must anticipate shifts rather than shy away from discomfort. "Bill, your point is valid," he said, employing the strength he had been accumulating. "This is where we need to decide what support tools we can implement. I believe that with a base of initial stories, we can standardize templates which will streamline feedback. Let's delegate aspects of the project based on strengths, leveraging our combined talents." A hush fell over the room, like an electric charge crackling in the air. Faces illuminated with understanding, as if they had crossed a line dividing creativity from uncertainty. Ideas flowed, and Jake discovered a new adaptation in himself, the capability to disarm doubts with constructive engagement instead of defensiveness.
Post-meeting, Jake lingered, glancing around at the whiteboards filled with scribbled notes. The once daunting task now appeared promising, possibly even achievable. Yet as colleagues left, Bill remained, crossing his arms with an inscrutable expression. Jake felt a frisson of confrontation in the air. "I'll give you credit for stepping up today, but that won't change the fact that you're leading a challenging project," Bill said, his gaze unwavering. The words stirred a familiarity in Jake, an echo of previous fears. Instead of yielding to it, he took a breath. "What I'm learning, Bill, is that these challenges invite us to rise above our parameters. I can't promise perfection, but I can promise they'll be handled with a willingness to learn and adapt." Bill nodded, albeit begrudgingly, his defenses momentarily down. "Be careful with that optimism. You don't want to set expectations too high and face the fallout." Jake could sense their roles shifting dynamically. Perhaps their exchange hadn't completely erased the tension, but it opened a channel of dialogue unexpectedly. There was something potent in recognizing competition as potential collaboration. Moving forward, he contemplated how to fortify this development. Could he harness this new coalition of thought to further empower himself and the team? The idea lingered in the back of his mind like an unwrapped gift, assuring him that the kaleidoscope of creativity might still contain a hidden cognitive treasure yet to reveal itself. As he stepped outside that day, invigorated by the interactions and reflections, Jake felt a surge of anticipation. The question of his leadership remained. Could he turn uncertainty into the very foundation of resilience? Today had illuminated pathways previously shadowed by doubt. He sensed he was on the cusp of something huge, yet the pressing tension of Bill's caution still loomed overhead. With determination, he returned home that evening, weighing both the triumphs and lingering fears in his heart. But tonight would be different. He would not only seek clarity, but also dare to envision the unimagined. What further potentials awaited him as the project unfolded? And as he formulated plans for their growth, the specter of doubt was becoming less formidable. The horizon began to glow. As Jake powered through these thoughts, the bell of realization chimed anew. Was it time? Would he step from the shadows of uncertainty into the potential of decisive action? Jake stood at the crossroads of transformation, a palpable mixture of apprehension and excitement thrumming through him. That evening, the remnants of doubt lingered, gnawing at his thoughts like a persistent itch. But tonight he refused to succumb. He knew the risks that accompany change, yet it was apparent that he had ignited something within him, a flicker of confidence intertwined with purpose. His mind raced with visions of the project, sprawling out like a vast landscape before him.
The storytelling platform wasn't just an idea anymore. It was a gateway, an opportunity for children to weave their own adventures, to interact dynamically with narratives. He could almost hear the laughter of kids engaged in the storytelling process, each voice distinct and contributing to a larger tapestry. Eager to harness this energy, Jake immersed himself in research that night. He combed through previous successful interactive platforms, analyzing what had propelled them into acclaim and the pitfalls they had encountered. The cogs of his mind clicked together, revealing pathways laden with both opportunity and caution. The critical voice of Bill echoed at the edges, cautioning him to be wary of high expectations. But Jake knew he needed to break free from that mold of anxiety. The next morning brought a renewed focus. As he entered the office, he felt the spark inside him tighten into a resolve, the kind that steadies your stomach before a leap. With fresh notes in hand, he gathered his task force around a conference table. A sense of urgency coursed through him. This was the moment to solidify their vision further. "Let's engage with our audience," Jake began, voice ringing clear. "Our goal isn't merely to craft stories. It's to create a living platform where children can contribute and modify narratives. What if we implemented a trial phase where kids could test features? They could provide real-time feedback on what excites them about story development." The room stirred, the gravity of his words igniting discussions among team members. Ideas bounced around, transforming what felt like stale air into a renewable resource of creativity. Someone suggested a potential collaboration with local schools. Another proposed a focus group involving children, providing raw insights straight from their imaginations. Amidst the collaboration, Jake found himself frequently steering conversations, nurturing ideas while grounding them in attainable goals. Something shifted within him. He positioned himself not just as a leader, but as a facilitator of voices. It was a gratifying realization. His confidence was blossoming, built on contributions far and wide. But as the conversation escalated, Jake caught sight of Bill's face, framed in skepticism. It was tempting to retreat into a shell, but he chose confrontation instead. "Bill, what are your thoughts on this direction?" he inquired, meeting the older man's gaze squarely. "Interesting ideas," Bill replied, though the skepticism laced his tone. "But you're introducing chaos with no structure. Who will make the final decisions if every feedback is considered? You'll drown in requests." Jake paused, then took a deep breath, plummeting into the confrontation headfirst. "Every change we make must maintain a balance between creativity and structure. Feedback gives us room to adapt without losing sight of our vision."
I believe we can create a framework that empowers creativity while still keeping us on track. As Bill mulled over the rebuttal, Jake sensed he was edging closer to a breakthrough, breaking the old mold of their exchanges. Yes, they were opposites, but their contrasting energies might just serve to elevate the platform they were creating together. The meeting concluded with exhilaration and direction, yet as Jake prepared to leave, a flicker of doubt flickered at the edges of his clarity. Could he truly manage the expectations he'd sparked? The momentum felt thrilling, yet suffocating at times. That night, bearer of both resolve and trepidation, Jake stared at his reflection, recognizing the shadows of uncertainty still firm in his eyes. He hadn't resolved all conflicts, nor was the path unfurling without challenges. Yet in the mirror, he saw a man ready to confront complexity rather than avoid it. His thoughts were interrupted by a notification on his phone. A potential partnership inquiry from a major educational platform appeared, and the message held a weight that sent shivers down his spine. What if this could catalyze everything he had visioned for his project? As he hovered over the message, Jake felt a thrill rush through him. He recognized an essential truth. The struggle to forge his path was merely beginning. How would he navigate this potential partnership while maintaining his vision against the Nathaniel blockages of caution that loomed? With an urgency that sprouted from a deeply rooted determination, he initiated a reply, setting the foundation for the next stage of his journey. The moment felt monumental. The turning of gears was unmistakable within him. But could he handle the truth that awaited? The moment of reckoning was near. Jake's heart thumped resolutely in his chest as he stood in front of the boardroom filled with executives, the culmination of his dreams and efforts coalescing into this singular moment. Months of navigating through uncertainty had brought him to the brink of a transformative shift, and he was ready. The strengths he had cultivated as a father, the creativity ignited by his daughter's passion, and the courage forged from his journey as a janitor converged into a poised determination. With a steadying breath, he distributed high-quality printouts of the final proposal for the interactive storytelling platform. He had painstakingly collaborated with his task force, evolving the idea from a humble spark to a robust vision that now resonated with wider purpose, the ambition to inspire creativity in children through educational engagement. As he surveyed the room, he felt the palpable tension. Executives leaned forward, their brows furrowed in curiosity mixed with skepticism. "This project represents more than just profits," Jake began, channeling the fiery conviction that had fueled him through this tumultuous period.
We are on the brink of transforming educational storytelling, making it not just an experience, but an adventure where children can explore the narratives they create. He moved through the slides, articulating clear benefits and actionable pathways. The room, once a fortress of disbelief, slowly revealed moments of intrigue. Jake's voice didn't waver. He was transformed, an impassioned storyteller himself, presenting a vision shaped by hard-earned insights. He emphasized how feedback loops will allow children to mold narratives actively, engaging them in a way that traditional storytelling could not. Then came the all-important question, the moment that could shatter the momentum he had established. One executive, an austere woman with a sharp gaze, asked pointedly, "You're showcasing a grand vision, Jake, but what does this mean for our bottom line? Can you deliver on these promises?" In that moment, flashes of his past flickered through his mind, self-doubt, uncertainty, and the relentless voices that had once haunted him. But instead of faltering, clarity struck him like a thunderclap. This project is an investment in future generations and demonstrates our commitment to innovation. By integrating feedback seamlessly, we'll cultivate a loyal customer base, children and parents alike, that will generate sustained revenue for Futuratech, Jake articulated with unexpected eloquence. As discussions continued, something fundamentally shifted among the executives. They were unfolding before him, not as critics, but as partners. The dynamic interaction pivoted toward collaboration rather than dissent. With each point he articulated, a shared excitement began to replace skepticism. Towards the conclusion, an unexpected voice emerged from the back, the familiar skepticism of Bill. "We've all seen grand ideas fail due to execution delays. How will you address scalability once this takes off?" Jake paused, resisting the urge to retreat under the weight of scrutiny. Instead, he embraced the challenge. "Scaling requires robust foundational processes. We will conduct incremental rollouts, employing data-driven decisions at each stage, ensuring that we can handle user engagement without compromising quality. We'll also leverage our existing tech infrastructure to support growth dynamically." The room stirred with renewed energy, and as he concluded, the applause was loud and affirming. The once aloof executives now regarded him with respect. He had accomplished the unthinkable, not merely surviving in a space that had felt so foreign, but thriving, transforming himself into a contributor of value and innovative potential. A week later, Jake returned to the office. The lively chatter among team members reverberating through the hallways like a sweet melody. The approval for the project marked a new chapter, a definitive acknowledgement of his capacity to lead.
As he walked in, he felt a remarkable lightness. The burdens he once carried had transformed into gratitude. Jake spent his evenings sharing the excitement of the project with Lily, bringing her into the folds of his creative world. "We're going to make stories come alive for kids everywhere, just like how you draw your adventures," he reminded her, igniting her innocent enthusiasm with visions of their future. And while the stakes had undoubtedly risen, Jake felt a solid confidence about his newfound role, a recognition of his competence in leading the task force. No longer just the janitor turned innovator, he had claimed his space at the table. His experiences, with all their struggles, forged him into the leader he had become. But even as he reveled in this triumph, Jake understood that true success lay in the interconnections he fostered. He had evolved from merely seeking approval to sharing his visions and ideas freely, facilitating conversations that sparked creativity in others. Looking toward future challenges with newfound ambition, Jake felt he had reached a profound milestone, a meeting of both worlds, passionate innovator and dedicated father. Empowered by this dual existence, Jake knew there was nothing he could not accomplish for himself and for Lily. In those quiet moments reflecting upon the days to come, he recognized that victory was not just about professional accolades, it was also about nurturing relationships, both at work and home. As he watched Lily sparkle with anticipation, he realized he had achieved not just a personal milestone, but had also crafted a path to ensure they would thrive together, a family united by dreams ignited, stories told, and adventures shared. This was no longer simply a project. It was a legacy. You need to subscribe now to follow more transformational journeys like Jake's. This is the moment to show your support by leaving a like. Your engagement feeds the algorithm. Comment below with your thoughts, theories, and reactions about Jake's extraordinary journey. And don't wait even one more second. Share this incredible story with at least 5 friends who need inspiration to overcome their own struggles. Let's spread the energy of personal growth and empowerment.